Welcome to our React, Respond, Initiate webinar. This webinar is being recorded. It will be available on the visitnc365.com site and our partners.visitnc site under the COVID resource section. We will also have it up on, as soon as possible. Please ask questions in the Questions tab on the GoToWebinar screen on the right-hand side of your computer. If you're calling in, questions can be emailed to guy.gaster@visitnc.com. Questions will be answered at the end of the program, and we'll post them as soon as possible. All right, I'm Whit Tuttle. I'm the Director of Visit North Carolina. Visit NC's mission is anchored in the economic vitality of our state's tourism industry. We're motivated and focused every day on serving you, our communities across the state who are enduring this ongoing tragedy. Sorry, I'm getting a message on my computer. We're dedicated to providing critical information and resources to assist you in mitigating its impact. That's why we're producing these weekly webinars. We want to help us all navigate through the pandemic. Now, while we're doing this, at the same time, we're working to secure additional funding to help stimulate travel once Visit NC is advertising again. Our advertising may be paused, but planning our comeback is not. Our focus this week is on research and communications. In a little while, we'll have some great guests to go over crisis communications and best practices to help you keep your message straight and navigate the media during these treacherous times. But we'll start with research. Timely research. Now more than ever, we need real-time insights to make the best decisions on appropriating our limited funds and developing a message that resonates with travelers. I'm very excited to have some great experts on the line today to talk about research. We have our very own Marlise Taylor. She's the director of our research programs here at Visit North Carolina, and we're pleased to have Lori Pennington-Gray. She's the director of the Tourism Crisis Management Initiative with the University of Florida. Take it away, ladies.
Thanks, Whit. You could go to the next slide. It would be great. Thanks. So, yeah, I'm Marlise Taylor, Director of Research for Visit North Carolina, and I'm happy to be here on the webinar to provide you some information in terms of research and best practices. While there's an abundance of research on this current crisis right now, and we could take all day sharing data with you, we really want to hone in on some key top-line data today and then provide you information on how to best move forward in terms of best practices. Next. So what you can expect today from this portion of the webinar will be current top-line data, how to keep current in your research strategies, what best practices you can emulate in your destination, and then how to be ready for questions following a crisis. You heard from Whit earlier about data that we have subscribed to from destination analysts and other vendors, and we will continue to work with them to receive weekly updates on current perceptions and the intentions of American travelers. We're also working closely with STR and our other lodging data partners such as Key Data and AirDNA to keep abreast of current performance and projections for the rest of the year. We will continue to share this information with you as we receive it. The U.S. Travel Association and Tourism Economics have long been trusted sources with Visit North Carolina in terms of our visitor spending and our satellite accounting models. I will share with you some recent data from them shortly, and similarly, we will continue to work with them to share the most relevant research to you, our partners. I'm really happy to have Dr. Lori Pennington-Gray with us today from the University of Florida, and she'll be sharing with you some results from data that they have been collecting since January. Other sources such as Longwoods, Adara, Key Data, and others are available, and links to such have been provided in Whit's regular updates to partners. Next. The first data I want to share with you comes from Destination Analysts and really hits home as to how this crisis has changed the perception of a trusted source in terms of travel planning. In the last wave of surveys, we learned that the federal government sources are now the top resources for planning travel in the next 3 months. Word of mouth, which you can see further to the right, which is typically the very top resource, has fallen significantly. Potential travelers are seeking official government support when planning travel. Next. While interest to learn about new travel experiences increased very slightly from last week to this week, now is still not the time for traditional advertising. Nearly 40% of total respondents, and as well at the South region, are not ready to learn about new travel experiences yet. Next. The U.S. Travel Association and Tourism Economics have been longtime partners for Visit North Carolina in terms of measuring the impact of visitor spending on North Carolina and its 100 counties. Their estimates of losses due to COVID-19 are staggering. There is an expected loss of nearly 6 million jobs by the end of April due to declining travel, according to data released Tuesday by the U.S. Travel Association and Tourism Economics. These job losses will more than double the U.S. unemployment rate by the end of April. Next. Travel industry losses will exceed those of any other sector. The expected loss of $400 billion in direct spend and more than $900 billion in total tourism economic output in 2020 is estimated to be 7 times the impact of 9/11 and sure to push the U.S. economy to a recession. While the largest revenue declines will have been felt in March and now in April, with lessening declines through the travel summer season, positive growth is not expected this calendar year. Similarly, the heaviest job losses are also going to be in these next couple of months, but they will continue through the remainder of the year, with December estimated to have still nearly 2 million less jobs. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Lori Pennington-Gray to provide you some data that her organization has collected.
Thanks, Marlise. The Tourism Crisis Management Initiative at the University of Florida has been committed to crisis management in the tourism industry since 2007. And when the crisis started in China in January, or at least when we started hearing about it, we started collecting data right away. One of the things that we find critical to understanding travel behavior is perceptions of risk, and in particular related to the COVID-19 virus. Here you can see on the chart that in the southern region of the country, there's higher or elevated risk perceptions related to the COVID virus. This substantially will impact the likelihood to travel by the southern region. Tied to this, we're also committed to understanding not only the sources that people are using when they're making their travel decisions, but also who they're likely to listen to as a spokesperson for the industry and for travel in the industry. We asked several questions related to trusted source, and 2 of them I'll present here. The first one is related to whether the President of the United States was to ask you to avoid traveling. Would you do so? And you can see here that areas related to the East, South, Central region, as well as the South Atlantic region, express the highest likelihood to avoid travel if the President said so. On the next slide, you'll see that another source of information is family. In this area, we'll also see that in the southern region that more people are likely to listen to family if they're asked to avoid traveling. These are important pieces of information when you need to understand the messaging sources that you're portraying and who's asking the public to travel. We need to stay on top of research, and we recognize that destinations have varying budgets. So what I'd like to present are 3 different areas that, regardless of the size of the budget that you're operating from, you can invest in some research. The first area is risk perception research, and a lot of times this is an area that isn't invested in. It's more likely that people are asking merely the likelihood of travel. Unfortunately, we know from past research that risk perceptions are highly linked to likelihood to travel. And we know that risk is also related to different segments of the population and different market segments. So you may have the likelihood to travel by one segment expressed to a greater extent than by another segment. Not knowing which segments are more likely to travel or that have more risk aversion would help you to understand who you can market to first. So some of the questions that you could be asking on your surveys or even through sending out messages when people are requesting information, ask 2 or 3 questions, might relate to perceptions of safety in your destination. Perceptions of safety have been a surrogate for understanding risk. If people think that it's safe to travel to your destination, they're more likely to be inclined to travel to your destination. So simply asking a question related to safety can help reveal information. Maintaining a database of interested visitors and also using that to ask questions is one way to get at questions quickly. Pushing out questions on mobile devices and looking for other ways to capture data in an ongoing fashion is critical to staying on top of what's happening. We know from COVID-19 that changes in perceptions and changes in attitudes are happening on a daily basis. So if we're waiting even a week, then the change in volatility in attitudes and perceptions is greater than ever, and we're not on top of what's going on. Another way to kind of capture this change in attitude is through the social media that you might be using. And engaging in social mention research is also another way to do this. You can do this at various budget levels as well, but merely getting on and monitoring and looking at mentions about your destination is a simple, easy way to do this. You can look at TripAdvisor, you can look at Yelp and a variety of other areas where people are posting about your destination and the travel product in your destination. Sentiment analysis is taking it a step further. It's understanding what people are saying. So whether there are positive or negative mentions that are happening, and then responding is actually providing a response back to those that are asking questions or being responsive to the comments that are happening on social media. The last fairly inexpensive way to get involved in research is to purchase questions on Omnibus Surveys. You can buy a suite of questions for an inexpensive amount of money and ask direct questions related to your destination. The specific questions about your destination relative to an ongoing nationwide survey can give you a glimmer of information that can help you to make decisions also.
We're now going to shift gears just a bit and talk about best practices with some examples from accommodations, destinations, and food and beverage sectors. For accommodations, Marriott is just one example of a best practice. This is an email received by several of us, but the gist is, our thoughts are with you. We appreciate all who are on the front line, and we know that travel is not at the forefront right now. But when it is, know that we thank you in advance for trusting us to care for you. It can be very simple, not necessarily this long, but the sentiment is there.
We know that a variety of destinations are also putting together videos. We know that video is a lot of times more engaging than simply words. So destinations from large to small have been investing in messages about, again, similar messaging related to what Marlise just said with Marriott, that we're with you, we're in this together, and we'll be here when you come back. We're going to show a quick video here on what Jamaica has done.
We're going through a really rough time, all of us. It's hard to imagine the light at the end of this tunnel, but it will come in the form of warm Jamaican sunshine and a cold jelly coconut. There's a reason we say no problem. It's not because things don't go wrong. It's because we believe there's nothing that heart and humanity can't fix. We're resilient And these beautiful beaches were made for tours. They'll come back. We look forward to welcoming you with a rich cup of Blue Mountain coffee, a bird's eye view of paradise, and a bad bass line. We'll get through this together.
So what I like about that video is that it is very destination specific, and it gives you the opportunity to understand the message related to being in this together, and that these are not normal times, but they also give and include in the message key products that are related to the destination that identify with the destination, things like Blue Mountain Coffee. So putting the message together should also be a way that you can incorporate what the destination has to offer in that message. We're going to move to another shorter example. Again, a smaller message, but a key message. Las Vegas has taken the opportunity to include some of the key concepts from the CDC in their messaging. They also are using it as an opportunity to remind people that it may not be the time to travel. I like also that they welcome you back, but let you know that things will be new and improved. All the things that are discussed in these two videos are important to pass along to the traveling public. It's important that we let them know that we're here, but we also want to do this in a creative way that incorporates unique aspects of your particular destination. Within the food and beverage industry, we know that it's also been very hard hit. The DMOs have been working closely with restaurants to incorporate opportunities for the local as well as the traveling public in some destinations to be able to have access to the number of restaurants that are available to order out or for pickup, or merely to put together information that is surrounding the food and beverage industry. Here, Miami has a website that is dedicated to what they are calling Miami Eats. It includes information, again, where you can go that has an interactive list for you to be able to look to see which restaurants are open and which ones are delivering. But what I like also is that they've got information related to a toolkit for the industry, as well as an employee relief fund that they've started. So they're going beyond just merely marketing what is available, but actually managing the destination.
So in closing, we want to encourage you to use the research available to you through Visit North Carolina and other means. We want to encourage you to invest in research when you can, to perform your own research as you are able, and to follow best practices as we've outlined here. We are here to help you navigate these uncharted waters in any way that we can.
Thanks so much, Marlise and Lori. That was, I think, outstanding. It's great to hear those tips that people can use, particularly on the social, even without investing a lot of dollars, or things that people can do without using a lot of their funds. I think that's really important these times. And now we're going to talk to our PR and communications experts. You know, PR is critical during times like this. Our speakers are Eleanor Talley, who runs our public relations efforts here at Visit North Carolina, and Chelsey Kirby, who's the Vice President with J Public Relations in New York.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are really excited to talk to you guys today about some public relations. I wanted to let you guys, we're going to start with an overview of the current media landscape, and just to remind everyone here that what we're talking about today is really specific to this particular crisis. This isn't necessarily best practices that we would recommend in a normal crisis. And so we just wanted to highlight that because we've never seen anything quite like this before in our industry or in our broader day-to-day life. So one of the things we wanted to mention is the media focus is changing every day and week to week. You're probably, if you're in the public relations orbit, you're probably seeing a lot of requests for Corona specific pitches and things from the media. We encourage you, if you're seeing those and you have something to respond to not spend a lot of time and to respond to those if you have something. But what we would like for everyone to really focus on, and what we've been trying to help you guys with, is while travel is stopped, the media really seems to be honing in on 3 content buckets from our perspective. They're looking at philanthropic hospitality, so those feel-good stories, the do-goods, places in your communities that are really, really excelling and doing amazing things for each other, for others, and the media is really looking at that. They're also looking for lots of virtual tourism experiences. You guys have provided a ton of those for us. We're so appreciative. If you have more, make sure you get them to us that we can pitch them as well. But even though people are not traveling, they're sitting at home and they're exploring the world from their couches. So keep that content coming to us if you have it. The last thing that we're really seeing as being focused on by the media is inspirational travel. So if you guys have ideas or you know, those big pitches that you've always wanted to place that you really think would make someone come to your destination, this is the time to really hone in on those and think about how you can get those out there to the media. It doesn't all have to be Corona focused at this time, but these are the content buckets we really encourage everyone to focus on. If you don't have the content developed, just check in your communities and get a campaign going that focus on these areas for immediate media opportunity right now. We are also using the Visit North Carolina PR hotline right now to give weekly updates about what we're hearing from the media and what kinds of trends we're seeing. We're also doing that with our international offices as well. So we're just trying to make sure that we're highlighting for you guys the kinds of information that's coming across our desks and sharing it with you on a regular basis so that you know sort of where to focus your efforts. If you're not in the North Carolina PR hotline, contact us at media@visitnc.com and we will add you so that you can get a weekly update for us for the foreseeable future about what's going on. Okay, and then the next piece of this is Chelsey's going to cover a lot of this, but big picture right now for everyone is monitor the media, make adjustments to your plans, and then reassess. Right now, it's really important. I know we're all in the short-term phases of just dealing with the day-to-day, but don't forget to think long-term about what your public relations pitches can look like. People are sitting at home and they're dreaming about travel, and you saw that in the research that were being shown. They may not be you know, really focused on their travel in the near future, but they are going to start thinking about it. So position your destination or attraction to be front and center when it's time to travel again. And right now, we are encouraging you guys to look at a 30, a 60, and a 90-day plan. And Chelsey's going to cover off a little bit on what this looks like and some recommendations we have for you guys. Hello, everyone. This is Chelsey speaking, and as Eleanor had mentioned, I'm working hand in hand on PR, as JPR has been the agency of record for Visit North Carolina for just about 2 years now. Based in New York with offices across the country and into the UK and Toronto, JPR has a pretty good grasp on what's going on across the hospitality industry at the moment. We are a hospitality PR firm and have seen a plethora of scenarios unfold in just the last 4 weeks, starting with some of the clients that we represent in Italy. So we've had a couple of weeks head start on these crisis plans, but as Eleanor rightly said, this is a one-of-a-kind moment. This is a crisis unlike any we have ever seen before. And even these 30, 60, 90-day plans that will give you a high-level overview are subject to change day to day. What we had planned 2 weeks ago is now completely off the table. So you just have to keep in mind that, you know, give yourself a break, try your best, and know that you might have to readjust and assess and replan, if not weekly, then perhaps daily. So this 30, 60, 90-day plan that we'll walk through right now focuses on what we hope is a realist but optimistic view that we will be traveling again come summer, hopefully in June. So looking at the next 30 days, for all intents and purposes, think of this as April. Use this next month while we're still at home, grounded, you know, not much is going to change in terms of what we are looking at in being able to travel. Continue to assess and respond to the current media landscape. Utilize the crisis research, like some of those details just presented earlier in this presentation, to identify trends and need areas. You can also focus on proactive pitching over the next month on the here and now, what the trends are that media are seeking, those philanthropic, volunteerism moments that the hospitality industry is seeing, inspirational tourism, and virtual travel. Those are the 3 biggest buckets that media are looking for constantly on a day-to-day basis at the moment. You can also think about getting creative with how you are utilizing the virtual space within this 30 days, and think about press previews that you might ordinarily have happen in person. Those can now take place online by a form of a webinar. You know, you have a captive audience, you have journalists right there beside you, so take advantage of that and try to meet them face to face. Moving on to 60 days, this is, you know, thinking about May. Start reconnecting and engaging with your partners and with media. Connect with some target media that you might have relationships with or have been a focus for you over the years, and understand how their editorial coverage might have shifted, if not in the near term, then for sure in the long term or permanently. For example, you know, in-flight magazines have been on the decline for years now, and unfortunately with this crisis, a lot have ceased operations. That includes Sky Magazine, that's Delta's in flight, Hemispheres, which is United, and Southwest Magazine. All within the last 2 weeks have completely folded. This extends beyond in-flights and into even local community outlets. Some of those smaller magazines and newspapers that were, you know, hanging on for dear life really aren't able to weather the storm, at least at the moment, and have shuttered completely. So take stock, reevaluate, and see who's still left to play and who's still left to connect with when the dust settles a bit. Reschedule your media visits and FAMs. Start looking at your calendars and getting those dates in front of media so that you are front and center for when that travel restriction is eased, and begin conversing with your partners to create relevant partnerships that make sense and are exciting for the upcoming season. And one more thing, the reopening 2.0, when travel restrictions are eased, we're going to see a flooding of the market with industry reopenings. And we're going to also see some of the hotels and restaurants and other attractions that had to pause if they were planning to open this spring, now actually open this late spring, early summer. And as we all know, those openings are what captures the news, the attention of media. So use this time to think about what you can add on to your existing experiences that will allow yourself that opportunity to stand out, break through the clutter, and give yourself a newsy edge. Looking at 90 days, you, for our intents and purposes, again, this would be June. The hope is that we will be traveling. And as travel restrictions ease, we can begin to host media again. With both media and consumers, wherever you're directing your marketing and advertising budgets, as well as your public relations efforts, start with those neighboring and target drive markets, because vehicle travel is absolutely the safest bet for the foreseeable future. Beyond just safety, economics are going to play a huge part in where people travel over these next few months, if not years. And those long haul international, glamorous destinations that seem so far flung are actually going to be far flung for most people, whether it's within their budget or their safety, and what they're comfortable with. So, start thinking about what those staycations look like for your drive market, those drivable weekends, and even week-long or weeks-long summer travel. North Carolina has so much to offer. There is absolutely a vacation for everybody. When you're looking at hosting media, think about what you can really deliver on those fam trips and individual media visits that are going to be stellar and above the fray. You'll want to put your best foot forward to get people visiting and excited to visit and write about you, with so much information to come back online. And alongside that, make sure that you have exciting and authentic packages and programming in development and ready to go, so that you can share that with media. For, if you don't have a new hotel opening or a new attraction opening in your destination, you'll want to have something that's really exciting, that speaks to that authentic local nature of your destination. So overall, coming back to,
go ahead, Chelsey. You can wrap it up.
So you'll want to come back to monitoring, adjusting, and reassessing. We're living in a world of 24-hour crisis, and you just need to, again, give yourself a break, take a deep breath, and readjust, and continue to monitor and do your best to reacclimate with what is needed right now.
I think that's it for us.
All right, thanks a lot, Eleanor and Chelsey. It's great to hear from you. And we all look forward to when this ends. When will that be? That's the big question. Now, Marlise mentioned earlier destination analysts. We're using them for weekly insights on how receptive travelers are to travel messaging. That's helping us right now to craft our strategy across our social channels. But most importantly, that will let us know when we can start marketing again. And we really do believe that travel will be returning in 90 days. Whether that's June or July, I'm not sure, and we'll see, or it could even be earlier, but that's our target. These weekly surveys that destination analysts do give us a lens to see how traveler sentiments are changing. And what we're seeing, I think, and it was mentioned earlier, is that they are really evolving with every news cycle. So we have to keep the freshest research we can. Right now, the latest things we're seeing is that there's still a growth in cancellations for May, and unfortunately some in June. But still, the majority of these cancellations really are for near-term travel. Right now, safety is top of mind with everyone. Most people are done traveling until this issue essentially is resolved. So it's really a time to tread lightly, and you can see the data here, and that's what we're basing all of our actions on. We also saw that this crisis is impacting people's personal finances, but not just the personal finances. Vast numbers of people are also worried about the national economy and what it will do to them. Beyond that, it's also impacting the amount of personal time off that people are going to have available for vacations, after this is over. But we're keeping an eye on the silver linings as well, and they are there. When this does resolve, demand will be strong. We're seeing it. Americans are excited to travel when it's safe to do so. And we're the perfect match for the type of travel that will be first out of the gate. What we're seeing is that regional trips and road trips, that's going to be the thing. With our strong brand affinity and attributes, Visit NC will be ready, and North Carolina will be the perfect place. We want you to be ready as well. So next week's webinar will focus on our partner co-op, travel guide, and strategies we're developing to turn on advertising once we get through this. We've altered our co-op plan to be as flexible as possible with a variety of options for partners to help kickstart travel. We're also updating the travel guide to create an additional 25 pages of editorial. This will allow us for the first time ever to integrate all 100 counties into the travel guide editorial. We generated this space by separating out the listings, and we'll have them available on demand if people want them. This will also allow us to cut the guide advertising rate by 10% on most ad units. We're doing everything we can to help you out right now. We'll have more information on this and all the co-op programs next week. That webinar will be Wednesday, April 8th at 10 a.m. And now we're going to be able to answer some questions. So let me pull those up. Just a second. We'll get everybody back on. And I will sort them. Thanks to our producer, Guy Gaster. Okay, our first question is, have you heard any projections for occupancy July 1st forward for leisure travel? Many of our partners are entering their budget process now, so they're looking at travel projections for occupancy. I'd say Marlise or Lori?
Yeah, STR is doing weekly updates, and it's Thursdays, and so I would be happy to provide this. We'll do some kind of a newsletter or something to the industry to provide that most recent STR forecast data. It'll be tomorrow when I get it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that to you soon. Whoever it is that's asking this question, if you want to email me, I'd be happy to share with you what I received last week.
Okay. Our next question, did your analysis consider the possibility of year-round schools this year? I know we're looking at that for all of our research, and it is a possibility, and I think it could impact summer travel. A lot of these variables we just don't have any control over.
That's a great question, and I'm sure that it's at the forefront of many people's minds. I'm sure that destination analysts will be tackling this, and then a lot of the other research firms will also be looking at it.
Okay, here's a question. What research is Visit NC getting that we can pass on to in-state partners, and where can you find it?
Starting
Marlise?
today in NewsLink today, I'm going to consolidate all of the research sources that I have so far, and on a weekly basis, we're going to include that in NewsLink. So we're going to share everything that we get with you all. We're going to share the free research we get, and then we're going to consolidate ourselves the contract research that we're doing so that you all have access to this research as well. So look today in NewsLink when it comes out for your first kind of synopsis of what we have, and then we'll continue to do that on a weekly basis.
Okay. Are these videos examples of something should be done now, or is the recommendation to wait a bit? Laura, you want to talk a little about that, and then I can add a little something too.
Right. I would say that if you're in a position to be able to send a message out, that now would be an important time to do that. Letting them know that you're still out there, that you're doing things, and that you're, in this with them. That message, again, like the other ladies talked about, it's going to change, and things are changing regularly, but we know from research that it's important to have messages out there throughout the entire crisis, that it's not a last minute decision to do so. Whit?
Yeah, and for many of our partners, what our strategy is, we're trying to repurpose things we already have to save those funds for heavier marketing later once people can travel. But we definitely want to be there with organic social and those messages that show we're still there, because people are still concerned.
And
Okay.
can we add to that too,
Yeah.
that the earned media side of this is also really important right now too. So if you have the opportunity to pitch to get yourself out there organically and earned, then this is a really good opportunity to do that too. So don't forget that public relations and organic social are your sort of free outlets right now to market without spending funds.
Absolutely. And to jump in there, for those places that are closed, mostly, hotels, restaurants, bringing that experience online is such a great way to continue to connect and keep your destination top of mind right now. Even if you can't have travelers in your doors, sharing what you do online will continue to keep that community following you and interested and invested in coming to see you when you do reopen.
Okay, and now risk perception by region, the slide we had there. Lori, I think this was your slide. How is the data in the chart being sourced? Was this a poll or a control group?
No, this is a poll, a national poll that we do on a weekly basis as well.
Okay, and then there's another one. What are the best resources we can share with our smaller mom and pop hotels? I can answer this. I think we've got a great resource page up on the partners.visitnc.com site, the COVID-19 resources page. We have all sorts of information, particularly I think the things from the Economic Development Partnership in North Carolina. It's one of the first links we have there. They have lists with links to all the SBA loans, information on the CARES Act that was just passed. I think those are some of the most important information we can get. Right now, I think that the mom and pops are more looking at ways they can be economically assisted rather than get out there and market. And the CARES Act that was just passed has a lot in it. A lot of that still has to be funneled out before it's usable. And I know that Southeast Tourism Society also posted a nice overview on that, and US Travel as well has great overviews on those.
And just to jump in there, Whit, something that hotels might want to think about if they are located near a major hospital and prepared for what might be an influx in people needing hospital beds over these next few weeks or months, connecting with that hospital and providing a partnership where they might be paid, albeit at a smaller or less expensive rate, but still getting paid for those rooms for healthcare workers. That's what most hotels in New York City are doing right now. They're actually seeing those rooms get paid for, but at a value add. So something that still allows money to come in the door, but allows them to give back in the best way that they can.
Yeah, and I will say that the NC Restaurant Lodging Association has done a great job presenting a lot of those resources for the hotels and the restaurant industry. They've done a fund there to help workers, lots of other great stuff. And I know our GMOs here that are on the line have also done an outstanding job doing everything we can to get those resources out there to talk about what restaurants are still available and promote them. And we're promoting all of that on the travel advisory page on our Visit NC site. Okay, one more question, a couple more questions. Are you seeing any differences in traveler sentiment in the Southeast versus the nationwide?
In the data that we're getting from Destination Analysts, we're really not seeing that many differences between now their regions are defined a little differently. They have a South region that stretches all the way to Texas, so it's a little larger than our Southeast region that we usually use. But we're not seeing many differences at all, no statistical differences between the South region and the US total. Where there are, I'm trying to highlight and provide to partners and to our staff, but really we have not seen that many differences. Lori did have some because she had some different questions that she was asking in her research than what Destination Analyst was asking. So she did have some differences there, if you recall from her slides, but what we're receiving right now, no, not too many differences. This being such a different crisis than we've ever experienced before. Everyone is feeling this pain and having these same anxieties, having these same concerns. And but we'll continue to track that. We're certainly going to keep up with our region versus the rest of the U.S.
Okay, and then we have another question. Do you see any silver linings for North Carolina from the traveler sentiments, and for us in particular?
Well, I think one of our silver linings is what we have to offer travelers. I mean, I think we're geographically located in a perfect destination for road trips and for more regional trips rather than the fly and drive. So I think we're perfectly situated there. I think the types of activities that North Carolina has to offer, more outdoor activities that people can be a little more isolated, if you will. I think those are really going to be an advantage to us in terms of, if you look at what visitors do when they come to North Carolina, by large, there are so many outdoor activities to do. I think that that's going to help us position ourselves perfectly. I don't know if anyone else has any other.
I was just going to echo what Marlise said, that our research supports that people feel that outdoor activities and natural activities are less risky than going to areas that have more crowds. So whether that's a theme park or and even a crowded beach, that people are in general looking for still activities to do, and that those would be less risky. So that's a silver lining for sure.
And across the media landscape, we've already seen and heard from so many of our top media outlets that international travel is definitely going to take a back seat. Domestic travel and also something called revenge travel is a new trend that we're seeing emerge. People are going to be so excited to get out there and support those communities, especially domestically, that we all know are hurting so badly right now. There's a silver lining in being that we do have that proximity factor. There's so much to offer, and media are going to want to cover us more than ever.
Okay, then we had another question. How can we shift messaging in 60 to 90 days when this pandemic will come in waves? Our residents and leaders won't want us promoting our DMOs while the pandemic will continue until there's a vaccine. I think that really remains to be seen. Our hope is that within 60 to 90 days, the restrictions will be lifted and people will be able to travel. It's possible that won't happen. It's possible that anything could happen, but I think we're expecting to see that. And I think once the restrictions begin to get lifted, people will definitely want us promoting. And I think from the PR aspect, there's some things we can do, even if we're promoting aspirational rather than telling people to come right away, right, PR team?
Yeah, what we think with that too is that you need to plan for this regardless. So whether it's 90 days or 120 days, I mean, we're trying to be realistic about what we're giving everybody in terms of looking forward, but don't be short-sighted and not make a plan for a comeback, because if you do that, then I think that ultimately what's going to happen is that you won't have your feet under you when it's time to hit the ground running. So let's not be that in that position coming out of this, whenever this is. And it's part of the planning process, I think too, is that's going to be really helpful for everybody in our industry, is that you can spend this time convincing your leaders that people are going to be wanting to travel again, and that we should be welcoming them back to our communities. I know right now that there's a lot of fear in especially in some of our smaller communities that have less access to healthcare, that there's been a lot of concern about bringing the virus in. But at some point, as these restrictions start to lift and there starts to be, some immunity, we do need to be thinking about how we can safely incorporate visitors back in. And so that's part of this planning process. Just be thinking about it so that when the time comes, we're prepared to do what we need to do to help get our economy jump started again. And that's what our industry does. Travel and tourism is always the leading edge on the economic part of this too. So we just encourage you to, we're not saying that in 90 days we're going to be there, but we certainly hope we will be. And we want everybody to have put on paper, hey, here's what we're thinking we're going to be doing.
And I think that if these do, if these sort of pandemic waves do happen over the next few months, year, that drive market travel is really continuing, is going to be the safest bet. There are going to be hopefully short spurts, if not longer, of time to travel, and people are going to be itching to get out of their homes that they've been captive in for so long. So, a weekend getaway, 2 hours from your house, is actually doable as long as the restrictions have been eased, and that is something you want to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we had another question. Someone asked if the restaurant worker relief fund has been all used up or not. I do not know that. NCRLA will have that on their link, but I know what I would suggest, even if they have used up all the funds in it, I would recommend that you apply anyway. What we've seen with other grant and loan programs is that they are reseeding them as soon as they can. And so what you want to do is get your name in there and get your place in the line. Another question, how much does media layoffs affect the ability to gain earned media?
Oh, well, what we're seeing right now is that magazines and media still need to produce content. That hasn't changed. So layoffs aside, and the media landscape changing, that's been happening all along anyway. So this isn't new. It's just been a little bit accelerated with certain publications and certain things. Talking about in-flight magazines and local newspapers in particular is what we're seeing right now. So just stay on top of what's happening. And again, we're sending out through PR Hotline a weekly kind of encapsulation of what we're seeing, what trends we're seeing, what kinds of outreach we're getting from different publications about what they're looking for. So if you sign up for that, you can get that from us every week, but also just kind of helping you guys keep a pulse on what's going on in the industry. And all I can tell you is that this isn't necessarily a new trend. Again, it's an accelerated trend that we're seeing. Chelsey, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we surprisingly these last 2 to 3 weeks have seen, we're very fortunate to have so many media friends constantly reaching out to our agency with leads or to help for our help in developing potential stories. We have seen that number at least triple on a daily basis of the number of media leads that have been coming in. People are reading. The numbers online for some of these sites have also seen tremendous growth over the last couple of weeks, if not month. So while some of those people who are outlets that were having some trouble might not make it through this time, there are very strong news resources that are absolutely focused on producing travel content right now, and in some cases more than ever.
Yeah.
Great. All right, 2 more questions. What research is Visit NC getting that we can pass on to in-state partners, and where are you posting that research?
We're going to start doing a weekly synopsis of all the research available through Newslink. So you'll see the first article today. I'm currently working on a synopsis of what we have available right now, and you'll be able to pass that along to partners. We'll have links and just tidbits within the article itself that you can share and use.
Okay, and does Visit NC plan to adjust the marketing plan to focus more on regional advertising and even some in-state marketing when travel resumes? I would say yes, that is most likely what we're going to do. Our plan is always going to be based on the research and what the research tells us. And what it's telling us now is that people are really primed for those regional trips, road trips, and things like that. So chances are we will probably be much heavier in close to the state, contiguous states, and more in-state as well. Very similar to when we came out of the last recession. I think that's probably where our heads will be. And we'll always try and keep these to an hour, so I think our hour is just about up. I'd like to thank Chelsey and Lori, our guests, as well as Marlise and Eleanor, our experts, and all of you for joining us, and we will see you next week on Wednesday. Thanks a lot, everybody.